Kappei has just released Arc 7 Chapter 71, and this video will be a summary of the chapter. I highly recommend you check out my Arc 7 Chapter 70 summary. Anyways, let's begin. The massacre on the island, triggered by the curse rule, should not have happened. Subaru's life was taken by the sharpness of a knife. Slowly, Subaru's body got cold as death engulfed him. In the end, we do not know why Tanza and the rest of the group died instantaneously, but Subaru was not affected as much. Perhaps it's a question that will never be answered, and wasting brain cells trying to figure it out is a waste of time. Based on Todd's reaction though, the mechanism behind the death of everyone is the curse rule. It was the last-ditch attempt by Subaru, and he managed to grasp it. Todd had been caught off guard, and that's why he killed Subaru. Todd decided that Subaru was not a dying child, but instead a threat that needed to be eliminated. Subaru then mutters how it can be the curse. Now that poison gas is not the answer, if the curse exists, it doesn't really make sense based on what Gustav did. When Subaru pushed Gustav to use the curse rule, he never used it. Instead, he thrusted Subaru into another Sparker event. Subaru then verbally states that maybe because everyone on the island died, meant that Gustav was in a position where he had to use the curse rule. With that, Subaru comes to the conclusion that Gustav may be an enemy. After all, if the curse rule is invoked, Gustav, who is the administrator of the island, would be behind it. In other words, Gustav, Arakia, and Todd are the enemies. Immediately, the ground started shaking. Wise called out to Subaru, saying that it was a drawbridge. Subaru was shocked. He returned by death, but he had a shorter time span. Return by death was something that gave Subaru time to act, yet time was shaved off, causing Subaru anxiety and despair. If this anomaly continued over and over, then there would be a time where death would occur instantaneously after Subaru returned by death, meaning death couldn't be avoided. With that in mind, Subaru needs to take this drawback in mind. We see that Hyun, the lizard guy, is scared, and Subaru says to trust him. Subaru understands why Hyun is scared, but he needs to trust Subaru on this. After all, if Subaru told Hyun what would happen, there would be no way for Hyun to cooperate with Subaru, no matter if he believed him or not. For this reason, Subaru tricked Hyun with false information. This information was that the visitors were arriving for a show. Subaru knew that the island was used for entertainment, therefore he used his knowledge in order to get Hyun to team up with him. We see that Subaru and Hyun are in Gustav's room, and Gustav was not present. However, Gustav entered the room with Todd and Arakia in tow. Todd and Arakia introduced themselves to Gustav. Todd notes that Gustav's room is modest. Subaru is unhappy that Todd is inspecting the room, especially the bookshelf in the corner. Gustav closed the door and sat down. Subaru was tense at the situation. We see that Hyun and Subaru are concealed by the bookcase. Of course, Hyun is a lizard, so he can camouflage himself. So him and Subaru are invisible by the bookshelf. We see that Subaru told Wise to delay the dragon cart, while Subaru and Hyun infiltrated Gustav's room. Subaru didn't know if Hyun's mimicry would work, but he had to try it. The ability of Hyun's mimicry is based on his physical and mental guts. If he stays still, he's pretty much invisible, but if he moves, then it's pretty obvious. Luckily, Subaru can benefit from the effects if Hyun holds him. We see that Subaru told Hyun about who was arriving, and told Hyun that all he has to do is stay still. Subaru then finished it off by saying that he was there for Hyun, no matter what. And those words truly reached Hyun, which was the reason why for the first time he was not spotted. Gustav tells Arakia to sit, but she refuses. However, Todd sits down on the sofa and Arakia stands behind him. It seems odd that the boss Arakia is standing up and the escort Todd is sitting down, but in Subaru's mental image of Todd sitting down, this actually displays his true power and terror that he gives off. Gustav then asks why Todd and Arakia had arrived, and Todd gives Gustav a letter from the Prime Minister. Subaru knew that the Prime Minister was one of the main culprits that ousted Abel from power. This letter, carried by a bad omen such as Todd, and written by someone who ousted Abel, was bad news. Todd states that being the administrator of the island is an unpopular job given to him by the Emperor, especially for someone that was related to the hero Kurgan. Gustav was mad since it seemed like Todd was questioning the role the Emperor gave to Gustav himself. Arakia and Todd are both on edge, but Todd says Gustav's anger is justified and reiterates that he has to avenge a friend. Subaru doesn't know Todd well, but if he's avenging a friend, that means he has someone that he cares about. Todd apologizes for his behavior. Gustav then breaks the seal on the letter and he reads it, and Todd states that the island has an internal conflict, and as a result everyone needs to be eradicated. Todd said this in such a matter-of-fact response. It was as if Todd was talking about disposing garbage. Todd demanded that Gustav dispose of hundreds of swordsmen. The only reason Subaru didn't scream was because he had already seen the massacre happen. It was a miracle that Hyun didn't move. Maybe he was too stunned to move. As Subaru feared, Arakia, Todd and Gustav was his enemy. Gustav mutters, "Fear of internal conflict?" and Todd confirms it, and also states that since Gustav appeared, the quality of swordsmen had increased. This was a weird praise from Todd, considering he was ordering for the death of all of these swordsmen. Todd mentions the curse rule to be used for disposal. Apparently, Groovy, another 9 Divine General, gave Gustav a spellbook which can be invoked, which Gustav agrees. With that, Todd says they should finish this quickly so they could prepare new swordsmen and they can close Gunnenhive for a while. Subaru is listening and he has to act now, but he doesn't know what he has to do. After all, if he makes a move now, then he will be killed immediately. One possibility is taking Gustav as a hostage, since he is the person that invokes the curse rule, but Gustav is stronger than Subaru and Hyun. However, a loud voice resounds, "No." We see that Gustav has turned down Todd and Arakia's demands, and Todd said "what" in a cold tone. The tension in the room froze. Todd asks if there's any errors in what Gustav read from the letter and the plan he discussed to solve the issue, and Gustav says that there isn't any errors. Todd then asks Gustav about his feelings. Gustav states that he was ordered by the Emperor to train swordsmen. However, Todd says that the letter is from the Prime Minister, which is essentially from the Emperor himself, so therefore it's authentic. However, Gustav states that when Gustav was made the administrator of the island, he was also given an order from the Emperor to never disobey the first command he was given, even if it came from the Emperor himself. In other words, it was a foundation that was set up by Abel for the future, as if he predicted this would happen. Todd then rationalizes what Gustav says by saying that Gustav cannot listen to the current Emperor's orders due to the past Emperor's orders, and Gustav confirms it. With that, Todd stated to Arakia that the negotiations are dead. With that, Gustav tried to lift the desk up, but Arakia pulled out her stick and pointed it at Gustav, launching a jet of water, blowing his head off. Gustav falls down dead, and Todd is nonchalant about the situation. Arakia asks if Todd is surprised at her power, and he says that he is not. However, he's shocked about how strong water can be. Arakia explains that fire is for a group of people, and water is usually best for one person. Todd then stands up and Arakia questions him, but Todd simply goes to Gustav's corpse and starts dismembering it. Subaru turns away. Subaru knew that Todd was a formidable enemy, but this is the first time he has seen this bizarre behavior. Todd's violence seems to be used to eliminate threats and enemies, so Subaru wonders if Todd did the same thing to his body after he died. Todd mutters the words, "Got it," and the whole room is confused. Todd states he was sure that the spell tool would be implanted in Gustav's body. It was a black ball around the size of a golf ball, which is used to invoke the curse rule from the spellbook. Todd plays around with it as he mutters to Gustav's corpse. "As long as you have this, it doesn't matter if you live or die. You've done a foolish thing." Todd's voice shows indifference and dismay, before finally stating, "It's funny that you think you have a chance against a monster," most likely referring to Arakia. However, Subaru thought that descriptor was better for describing Todd. Todd then asked Arakia to wash his knife with water as he placed the spellbook on the table. However, Subaru then reached out for the book, shocking Arakia and Todd. Hyun's mimicry had done its job. Even Todd and Arakia was fooled. Subaru then called out to Hyun. However, when Subaru did this, he was looking at the entrance of the room when he called out Hyun's name, even though Hyun was by the bookshelf hiding. Subaru told Hyun to blow up the room, and Arakia and Todd went on the defensive. However, when nothing happened, after a few seconds, Todd realized that it was a bluff. Immediately, that was enough time for Hyun to grab Subaru and jump out the window, and Subaru then grabbed the spellbook as well. A torrent of water covers the room, destroying it, but Subaru and Hyun are long gone with the spellbook. Todd looks out of the destroyed window, seeing a white cloth leading downwards. Todd mutters that they were ready and waiting, and wonders what the hell is that kid. Todd tells Arakia to find and kill the kid, and Arakia asks what Todd will do, and Todd says to not worry. Arakia then chases after Subaru, and Todd stands there, clicking his tongue, stating that the kid smells bad. The chapter ends. Honestly, that was quite possibly one of the best chapters I've read. I really enjoy Todd in the chapter. I just feel like he transforms the web novel. I'm not sure, because Todd keeps talking about Subaru's smell, so I'm not sure if Todd can smell miasma, but it seems really weird that Todd keeps going back to the smell of Subaru, but it's something to keep in mind.